you know,
No, yeah. Hey,
the weird.
what happened to your camera?
I'm back. I
You're
see
back.
you.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Stew Pod. This is episode number 2. I am here with Mike Moffett, aka Kid Collins, and he was one of my early mentors in my career, so I wanted to bring him on and talk to him. So, Mike, welcome aboard. How you doing?
I'm doing great in these times, brother. You know, we're just all hunkered down in the bunker.
Yeah. You still a Galleon or Mansfield area?
Just outside of Mansfield, a little town called Lucas, just a little one stoplight town. That's where I grew up.
That's where you grew up. Was that where you were born?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
I
you never.
actually, oh yeah. I've left a few times, but I always end up back here somehow.
For people that don't listen, back when I first met Mike, it was 1993, and I was 2 months into the business. So you were in the business a long time at that point.
Right.
And I'm thinking, yeah. So go ahead, walk people through what happened at that show, because it was my first show. It was my first match. I was doing a battle royal with you. You can go ahead and tell the story.
The battle royal. Oh yeah, this is a real good show.
Hollywood Diamond O'Neill, wasn't his name that or something like that?
Hollywood Diamond O'Neill. He was mad because he found a girl that wanted to become a manager. She was at a Cleveland show, a WWF show. So he's, I'm a wrestler, and he'd just gotten into it. So he thinks he's going to bring this girl down. She was hot. She was cute, well put together, and but she didn't want nothing to do with the guy, which made me feel bad for him. But he wasn't in her league at all, you know. So he gets mad because on the next wrestling show, she didn't want to go out with him and be his manager. She wanted to manage somebody else. Well, I asked her, who? She says, I want to manage you. So I'm like, that's not going to go over well, but okay. So comes down to going out for the battle royal. He was in the battle royal, and it was your first night. And we had just spoke briefly. Just hi, yeah, before the show. But I mean,
and that was it. I can add a little bit more to it later, but go ahead. I'll let you tell the story.
Oh, okay. So anyhow, this guy decides the night before he calls one of my guys that he thought he was cool with. So I knew this was coming. He calls my buddy, what if I was really to mess somebody up in that battle royal? And Brian said, who? Who you talking about? Who you got beef with? He said, Kid Collins. So my buddy Brian, who he thought was his buddy, calls me, didn't even hang up he just hung up the phone and and tells me this guy's gunning for me. So the night of the show, we go out there. All I wanted it was to be fair. You know, if he sucker punched me or, something from behind, just, I said, nobody do nothing to him. That's mine. But if, I'm down or something, let me just square up.
I wasn't aware of this. I was not aware of this at all. I had no clue.
Oh yeah, nobody knew there was beef because loose lips. Because I'm like, if he wants to go for it, let's roll. And I was I owned the gym, I owned the promotion, and this guy's gunning for me over some chick that didn't like him. I don't know. So we're in the middle of the ring, and here comes Beef Stew Lou Marconi across the ring. I'm pounding on somebody, and all of a sudden, what? Here's Lou.
Full Nelson. It was stiff as hell because I was free. You there, Mike?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I put you in a
there
full
you
Nelson. That was green.
Full Nelson. Lou's on me, and I'm just like, okay, loosen up a little bit, young man, and all of a sudden, here's this goofball in front of me, and he throws a punch, and I just thought, okay, he's nervous. I mean, it wasn't much of a punch, but I thought, oh, he just, So I'm like, what's that?
He couldn't hit that hard anyway. He was not an athlete.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I don't cut him down too much, because then everyone think this is a bullshit story and I kick the shit out of some punk. you got to say he was good, big, strong. But anyhow, so I'm in the full Nelson, and this guy comes over, gives me a shot, bam, and I just stood back up, and I'm still in full Nelson. Well, I look up, and here comes this kid's hand downwards, and he had a class ring and another ring turned backwards to his palm. And I glanced, tilted my head like that, and he right down my head. I had a blood blister about 6 inches long that raised, eighth inch off my head. And here's Lou holding on for dear life back there. And I'm just like, can I curse? Can I curse right here?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to say something I'm not supposed to. I was just me. Yeah, I was upset and ticked. I'm like, get the fuck off of me. And I just, boom. Now, where do you want to take it from there? Anywhere?
Well, I wasn't sure what was happening because after that happened, you beat the crap out of him. You threw him out. And I'm just kind of like, I just stood there and said, okay, I don't know what just happened. So I kind of went back in where I worked with other people in the Battle Royal. And then actually I got to the locker room and I got thrown out. Because I was supposed to be in the last four anyway, because you guys wanted me to, because it was my first time. I had people coming, wanted to make it look good. So I got there, and then you guys were like nose to nose. And I think his nose was busted. He was bleeding. And he was like, he said he didn't understand why. And you're just like, get the hell out of here. Don't ever come back to my gym. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck. It was just one of those things. And I'm just standing there like, what happened? And I saw, and I guess he punched the locker and he left. It was close. It was really close to where that girl's name was Carrie, wasn't it?
Carrie, yeah, yep.
He punched that locker like right by where she was, and she like, whoa, she like he almost like he took a swing at her, but he missed her, But
yeah,
he left. He took his stuff. He left. He didn't take a shower. Didn't even change his clothes. He left. And and he kept calling himself the bi-coastal champion. I remember that. He kept calling it like he never won or anything, but he was just a bi-coastal champion. I remember I was like, God, what's wrong with this guy? And then
I call him the bipolar champion.
Polar champion, yeah. But I think we really didn't have much words after that because I was just like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't know what was going on. And then you felt bad about it because a lot of heat of the moment yelled at me, not in the locker, but in the ring. And then you talked because you used to ride to work with Charlie at the Mansfield prison, right?
Yep.
So when you did that, I guess like 2 nights later, you called me at my house, because I was still living at home at the time. I was only 19. That was my 20th birthday. That was my 20th birthday. It was my first show. So I just turned 20. And I remember just thinking to myself going, okay, I just screwed up major at my first show. I pissed off the promoter. What did I do? Oh my God. I had nothing to do with it. I remember telling him I didn't know what was going on. I had nothing to do with it. But, Charlie just said, hey, just give him a call, smooth it over. And ever since then, you and I were friends. I think we were cool.
So, yeah. It had nothing at all to do with you. You just happened to be in the wrong place, holding the wrong guy at the wrong time. But it was actually,
yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. I was glad it happened because I didn't want to have all this back. I don't like the drama, especially, wrestling drama. And I didn't want to have that in my, in the gym. And I didn't want to just throw the guy out just because his heart was hurt. You know what I'm saying? I'm a fair guy. So, but yeah, it was just crazy because I didn't really think he'd have the guts to do it, and he did. So I think we watched the video, and it was either 13 or 16 unanswered punches I gave him. I think it was like 13. And yeah, he was surprised. He thought he hit me harder than what he could. He's watched too many shows and watched too much wrestling and thinks I'm going to just sell for him. Bullshit,
Oh, you got to knock somebody out. You got to hit him. You got to hit him on the chin, and you got to do this and that. I mean, there's a lot more to it, especially an experienced fighter like yourself. So, yeah. But yeah, so that was our first time. Yeah.
I wanted to set the stage for that whole thing was just about, look, don't come try to shit at my house. You know what I'm saying? So just because you got hurt feelings.
Yeah, and all of that was over a woman. How about that?
Over a woman.
What's that?
I can't even remember her last name, but I look her up on Facebook and be like, hey, how you doing? So, Terry, if you're out there listening, you follow Beef Stew Lou, look me up on Facebook. I don't know what the hell. I'm too old for all this internet stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. But okay, so now that we got that out of the way, now, we were cool ever since then. That was like '93, and I was like 2 months into the business. So yeah, 2 months training with Charlie, and I got my first battle royale. So that's what that happened. So when did you break into the business? When did you get in?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say this. I always said if I'm ever on video or doing a newscast or anything, I'd bring something better than ice water to drink, because you get parched. How lame am I? I got ice water. So anyhow, it does a body good, I guess. Anyhow, so what was the question? How did I get into this?
What year? How did you get in?
Well, of course, I started off watching it. We didn't have cable in my little town, so I didn't know what wrestling was till I was about 10 or 11. My sister's boyfriend lives next town. It's a bigger city. They had cable, so I'd go and watch it. Then we started going to the matches live here in Mansfield, the good old 7-Eleven Union Hall.
Yeah, I've worked in that place.
Yeah, it was awesome. And what was neat was you could shut off all the lights. It had the old style ring light.
Oh, wow.
So all you see is the wrestling. It ain't about getting distracted by the crowd or by whatever. It puts the showcase on the guys. I love that. And it reminds you of the old smoky pool room type, back room wrestling, because everything was dark. You couldn't see but like maybe people in the first row. But I met a promoter there out of New York. He's off Long Island. Andy Corton's his name. And Andy, if you see this, look me up. But he promoted up there, and he wanted to run some stuff down here. So this time I was 17. And so I said, yeah, I'd help you out. And so he would send me posters. I'd go around and put them up. He'd get me tickets, ship me all the stuff. I'd get them to the ticket outlets and everything else, find him sponsors. So I was 16 when that started. So at 18, I finally asked Andy, the promoter, I'm like, look, dude, this is what I want to do. I want to do it worse than anything. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to go serve. I'm not going anywhere. I want to do this. And I was skinny at the time. I was like 6'2" and probably like 180 pounds.
Okay.
And so I went up. I got into. He wasn't going to send me because back in the day, see, you didn't just look it up on the internet. Oh, here's a pro wrestling center, and it'd be whatever. There were certain people in the United States that trained people. You didn't have gyms on every corner. Everybody couldn't be a wrestler. So when I saved up the money and I got to go to the gym, and I met him, and he looks up at me. Now I've driven 3 hours. He looks up at me, he goes, looks me up and down, says, "You're smaller than I thought you was." And I says, "What?" And he says, "Well, I thought you'd be bigger." I'm like, "I can get bigger." He goes, "I don't think we can do this." And I took the envelope, I smacked him on the arm chest area and threw it on his desk. I said, "Look, dude, I want to do this worse than anything. Please let me do it." And so there I was. And so I got to go out and sweep the mat and, do all the little chores. And that was the start. And then the first guy I seen come in, the door opened to the gym. And, the gym's like got 175-watt bulb above the ring and everything else is dark. And the door opens, light spills in, and all of a sudden the light goes away, but the door didn't shut. And they called him Little Vern, who was 7 foot and 480 pounds or so. And that was the first guy I got to meet at wrestling school. I was like, oh shit. That's where it started and how it kind of And if I get winded on some of this stuff, tell me shut the hell up, Lou, because the older I get, the worse I get.
It's about you. It's not about me. I'm just laughing. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Um, but I was trained by Guido Mongol.
Okay.
They were
Yeah, Guido
tag
Mongol,
teams back in the 60s. Yeah. Well, he trained Bill Eadie, Acts of Demolition. And actually, that was his Bill Eadie's, I believe it, if I remember right. I think it was Bill's first, kind of almost first gimmick that he used.
I think so.
He was, because he worked as Beppo, Guido and Beppo Mongol.
Yeah, I want to make a point because I was to get into the business at that time. What year was this? 85, 84?
Yeah, this was in 85, okay. 1985.
93. So it was kayfabe era still. You had to know somebody to get in. You really had to. You had to pay your dues. You had to do chores. You had to prove your worth just to get trained, and you had to get trained by somebody that was reputable to even get work. Today, you can buy a pair of boots off the internet and get on a show. It's crazy, and it's just
Go
ahead.
Well, no, the big thing is with it, it's like back then they found you usually. The guys, road warriors be over working out at Gold's Gym, see a big old dude jacked up come in, or guy somewhere and see some big old farm boy that goes, damn, he's huge. They would bring him into the fold. Or they might even talk to him after a match that the guy sat front row. If he stood out and was extraordinary, and that's what happened with me, there wasn't nothing extraordinary about me, except my will and my want. And as far as kayfabe goes, true story, all of it. I know wrestling, some people have their, but true story. I went to wrestling. The day I went to wrestling school, I wasn't sure whether it was real or fake because the promoter, he wouldn't let me in, into the back workings because he kept me motivated by keeping the kayfabe. And I went to wrestling school that day, not knowing if I was paying $1,500 to be, become a wrestler or just to get my ass beat. But at 180 pounds at 6'2", I wasn't much of any.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I had the same thing going into Charlie's. I didn't know how exactly it worked, but I kind of, because let me just explain this story. But when I broke in, it was in 93. I went down there in February of 93 because I called Charlie after I ran into I got Ron Cumberland's number, got me Charlie's number because I ran into Ron at a gym. I was an amateur boxer for a while. Yeah. And I happened to see Ron in the gym and I talked to him and he gave me Charlie's number. So I called, if I remember this correctly. So I called and Charlie's like, okay. He was like, well, I said, well, I was an amateur boxer for the last 2 years. I want to get into wrestling. I always was a fan and everything. He goes, okay, well, I'll give you a free tryout. Let me tell you that he gave me the dishes. It's $1,700 to get trained. You're guaranteed your first match. And Charlie kind of went over his credentials on where he worked and how he knows people at the WWF. And he gets guys on TV. I can get you experience. I can get you this. And it's like, okay. So I said, well, I want to come down. I'm going to bring a friend with me. And my friend, his name was Rob, and I'm still friends with him, but we kind of went our own way after that because he wanted to get in the business too, but he was small and he wanted to be a manager. So we kind of had a crazy plan, like he'd manage me or something like that.
Right.
And everybody wants to do that. But when he went there, Charlie was trying to sell him on getting trained and he wouldn't do it. He's like, no, I don't need to get trained. Right. And he never got anywhere, never did anything with the business because he thought he knew everything. And I look back, I thought I knew more too, but I didn't know anything. I really didn't know anything. Well, on our way, because we got down to 71 South, we took 30, went through Mansfield, and I can't remember if that also took me to another route to go to Marion, Ohio. And I went through Gallion, and we were. I'm like, man, this is a long drive. Are we there yet? I'm thinking to myself, are we there? And we saw a pro wrestling school, and it was in Gallion. It was yours. I stopped and I looked. I said, is this it? No, there's nobody inside. There's nobody inside. Okay. And so then there was a Wendy's down the street. I remember eating there many times after we trained. I stopped at the Wendy's and I asked him, like, are we married? He goes, no, you're in Galleon. You keep going this way, another half hour this way down the road, you're getting married. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, all right, we're heading in the right direction. So we got in, and I made it there on time and everything. And I got there and I found it was a Future Body gym. It was in downtown Marion where Charlie had his school. And I put on I went and changed. I had I put on boxing boots. That's all I had.
Mm-hmm.
I wore boxing boots for the longest time. I wore boxing boots. Didn't have knee pads. Went into the ring and Charlie's like, okay. Derek Stone was in the ring. And Derek was just training too at the time. He showed bumps. And he wanted me to do the bumps. So I did them, and they showed me how to hit the ropes. Because Charlie told me, he said, if I don't think you can do this, I'm not going to take your money. That's what Charlie. But I told him, I said, hey, I saw this other school in Galleon. Do you know who that is? He goes, oh, yeah, that's Kid Collins. I know him. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, cool. Okay, so you guys, we work together. We do shows together. We'll get you on the shows if you train with me. I was like, all right. So the thing I was scared of was this was my dream, and this is what I wanted to do. I didn't want him to tell me you can't do this. That's what I was afraid of. I was afraid of that. So
yeah, so was I.
Yeah. So after I did that, this is quick to the point. After I did that, he pulled me aside and he goes, "When can you start?" And I said, when do you need the money? I had to put the money together. So he gave me 6 weeks. I took another job. I took a second job making pizzas to pay for it. That's how I paid for my wrestling school. I made pizzas. And I was pretty good at it too. So I took a job at a pizza place making pizzas at night to pay for the wrestling school. And I eventually things went well. But my friend, the one Rob that was with me, was trying to talk me out of getting with Charlie. He was trying to talk me out of it. So why don't you go to the other place and you can get trained there? If I would have done that, you wouldn't have trained me. You wouldn't have taken me because Charlie said no. He came to my school and he wouldn't come here. You wouldn't have taken me. And I don't do that. Charlie, my word. I told him this is what I'm going to do. Plus, before I even went there, I called Great Lakes Wrestling Promotion. There's a promotion in Columbus and a promotion in Cincinnati. I called both of them before I even went down and tried out. I asked them about Charlie Fulton, and everybody had everything glowing to say about him. Then I asked them about a couple of local guys that I knew of. Like one of them was Psycho Mike. They didn't know anything. So they were like, so I kind of went, okay, he has a professional reputation. He gets guys that, it made sense to me to do this. It just kind of like, I said, no, I'm not going to, him and I pretty much stopped talking at that point because I was like, no, I don't think you know as much as you think you do. I had enough sense to say, if you want to get to if you want to get somewhere in the business, talk to somebody that's been there, work with somebody that's been there. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Right. So but I don't think you knew that, but yeah, he was trying to talk me into that. So that's him and I we're still friends. We're cool. I mean, I see him on Facebook, but we just kind of, he never really wanted it. He thought he didn't need to be. And Charlie was trying to say, if you're going to manage, you need to be trained. And it's true. I mean, I've worked with people on shows that were trained, and you can tell because they're not in the right place. They're not in the right position, and they almost get you hurt. I've seen referees do that. So, but yeah. So that's
it's best. Go ahead.
So what got you to open the school in Galleon? When did you get to that point?
Well, what happened was I actually opened in a building next to a boxing gym in Mansfield on Main Street. And the guy owned both buildings, and theirs was okay. It was a little dark, a little, dingy, but they were working on these old downtown buildings, right? So I stopped in there and said, hey, I run wrestling. Would you have room for a ring in here? Well, the landlord happened to be there. And he said, oh, I got space next door just like this. And, well, it wasn't just like that. It was pretty dark and dingy. But so he was supposed to, be fixing it up. Well, I started, I put my ring in there, and then he wanted to just keep on coming at me with, more money for this, more money for that. And I'm like, dude, this is your building, not mine. But anyhow, I just so happened to be living in Galleon, so I found a place downtown there. Or I think I was moving there. So I found a place down there, and rest is history. But what was funny is, see, I didn't have the experience like Charlie did when I opened my school. And, just doing shows and stuff like that. But I really wanted some place I could go that was close because it was 3 hours to Pittsburgh, 3 hours back for me. To bump, and train locally, somewhere I could just drop in. And so that's why I opened a gym. And what was funny was back then, not everybody was a wrestler. I bet you there wasn't more than 20, 25, maybe guys, 30 guys in the whole state. And that's being generous.
Yes.
I mean, I only knew a couple other wrestlers from here, and I met a lot of them on a Bull Miller show. They were promoting over in Marion.
He was in Columbus, right? Now he's down in Columbus, Bull Miller.
Yeah, he just passed away I think about 2 years ago now.
Yeah, because Frank originally. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good dude. He's a little different, but so and then I started the promotion because it's hard to get work without having experience, and you can't get experience without work. So my guys were in limbo because I didn't have all the connections like Charlie had. I knew a couple small time guys, but let me back up real quick because one day I was in my gym in Mansfield, and Charlie had called earlier and wanted to talk with me, speak with me. I'm like, oh shit, this is Charlie Fulton. He's wanting to open a school over there. He's just coming down here to whoop my ass. I don't know. And then I was like, oh man, but I'm so glad he did. And here's why. Because that drive-through you said, I helped get him a job at the prison. Or I had him apply at the prison when he could no longer work for the WWF back then. He had I believe, a heart murmur or something that kept him from being okay.
Yeah.
So he needed a real job, so I talked to him about the prison, and he lived like over here. This was Marion. Here was Galleon where I lived. Okay. And then down here was Mansfield, and that's where we worked. Yeah. So he 3 days a week, he would pick me up for work, and we would just talk the whole way there, the whole way home, wrestling. And I tell you what, I hate to say it, but Charlie probably taught me more. Well, he taught me more about the business and working the business and working crowds. And Guido, he was always a hero, just and he didn't get in the ring with us like Charlie would. But anyhow, so it was really kind of a cool marriage that we made. He didn't come to kick my ass or nothing. He's the softest spoken guy, wasn't he?
Very modest guy.
Everything, I'd always go, what, Charlie, what? We'd be driving, what? Because but you Google, hey, if you're watching this, Google Charlie Fulton, WWE, look at a couple of his matches. Man, there was one that he came off the mat, and I'm like, that is not Charlie Fulton. That is Satan in itself. I was like, oh, God. Because he was just so different in real life. Yeah. He's so calm and cool.
To the people listening and not watching, where Marion, Ohio was located, it was west of Mansfield, Ohio, and in between them was Galleon. So it's very easy for Charlie to commute to work with you. Plus, just to give the people an idea that are watching and listening to this, I knew Charlie for 23 years before he passed away, 2016. I never knew he did a tour in Vietnam until I read his obituary. He never talked about himself. Never.
Okay.
And I didn't know that. Yeah, he didn't know he was a Vietnam War veteran. I didn't know.
I wished I had it with me. Charlie meant a lot to me, and still does. And Irene, his wife, she's just a sweetheart. And I love when Irene's at the show. She'll probably watch this because we're, both so good looking and wonderful and well spoken. But Irene, hey, all the boys love you coming to the shows, Irene. Keep coming. We like to see you at the, after parties and stuff like that. So keep on coming. We miss Charlie a lot.
Oh,
So it's good. It's good to see you there.
yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, the thing is too, is because after that show with that one in 93, I think that was in Plymouth, Ohio. That was my first one, was in Plymouth. Because you don't forget your first show. You never forget your first show. I remember it was Plymouth, Ohio. And I made a lot of friends after that, even though what happened with Jimmy, I had a good friendship with Jimmy, still to this day, Jimmy Lee, Greg Anderson, Kenny Hendricks. Well, Kenny I knew from the training of Charlie. I'm talking about guys outside of the wrestling gym, because Kenny was with Charlie's as well. But a lot of your guys, and Ed Roof. I mean, Ed Deadly. I mean, him was another good friend of mine too. And it's just sad. And of course, Dave Kreiner, Thunder Morgan.
Yeah.
Two of them, Ed and Dave are no longer with us. And it's just like one of those things. It's just, you blink, and next thing you know, it's like 27 years later, and you're like, I'm pushing. I'm 40. I'm pushing 47 right now. And I have a family and I have a mortgage. Where did all this happen? So,
all right. Well, I'm 53, and I'm the old guy. I trained all these guys in the area, starting out, and there was 5 originals of us, and two of them has passed, and there's 3 of us left.
Yeah.
And I'm the old. Well, actually, Barry Hardy's older than me. Haha, Barry, I told on you by about 3 years. But him and I and Jimmy Lee are the only ones of the original 5 left.
Yeah.
So, and it's weird because I have a lot of pictures of like me and Ed and Dave together, and being like the only person still alive in a picture. That's it's weird.
Right.
And so I don't keep them out much, but I made a lot of friends too. I'm friends with most of them to this day, well, except the ones that tried to, take advantage of me in a battle royal over a girl. Yeah, I mean, I still got all these friendships to this day. Well, as a matter of fact, at the shows, I had to take off last January. Last year I broke my leg. It wasn't in the ring. I did it in my workshop, being stupid, but not paying attention, getting old. Think you're, yeah. Anyhow, and so I took off about a year actually, and the same show the following year I returned and came in under Partners Unknown, and there was me and 2 other guys that have retired. Barry and Mr. Insanity, Toby Klein. And we could, it was 5 on 5, so they knew 2 would put on the poster, and us 3 oldies were, the tag team partners. So, and the crowd just loved it. It just, they couldn't believe us when we were walking out. Oh my God, they probably smelled the Ben Gay for miles.
I'll tell you what, Toby's an interesting character too, because I remember he started like 95 or 96. He was just a kid. And Jimmy was young when he started. He was only 15. So we all started at a young age. Just,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the other thing it was good seeing Toby, even though it's bad circumstances. It was Dave Kreiner's funeral last year.
Yeah.
And I saw Toby, but man, his wife is a sweetheart. She is a classy lady. I like her. I like Nicole a lot. She's a great girl. He's lucky. Yeah.
She is. Yep. And them boys of his, man, he's blessed with a wonderful family. He really is. Them boys.
Good for him. Did you ever hear that one story when he first was getting married and he was like 20 years old? And this is at the gym, and Jimmy was there with me. He comes up to me, he's all excited. He goes, "Hey Lou, guess what?" And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I'm getting married." And I just stopped and I looked at him and I went, "You dumb son of a bitch." And Jimmy fell over laughing, and his face just dropped. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And it just was like, and it was just me because I thought he was too young. And sometimes I didn't think before I talked, especially back then. And I felt bad about it. But he'll probably look at me today and say, "No, you're probably right," because that didn't work out, obviously, because I think Nicole's the second one.
Yeah, and she's a sweetheart.
And I
And
waited until 40 before I got married. So
yeah,
yeah, I waited a long time. But
I started early and then just stayed away from it for the last 20 some years.
yeah, I know you were married. I remember you were married and you had your two daughters, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember them. They used to be at the shows all the time. They were always at the gym and they were very young. And then I saw them, what was it, like 7 years ago? One of them, I can't
Yeah.
remember who it was. And she remembered me. Last time I saw her, she was a little kid. I had no idea who she was.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, which one was that? I'm trying to remember.
That would have been Erica, and I make pretty babies, don't I?
Yes, you did. Very pretty. I was just like, I was like, Mike, no, I was with my wife and I was married at the time and everything, but it was just like I wouldn't do anything, but it was just funny to see her. It was just, and I guess she's married. She's married now.
Yeah,
so
I got two grandbabies, and her husband, he's a firefighter, paramedic, and she's got a good life there,
good,
you know. But yeah, it was funny because I've seen some old videos of the gym, and like, if you're looking at the screen, like here's the ring, and people are walking around in the ring, right? You'll see their little heads going across the screen when they would pass, running around the ring and this, that, and the other. But it's just funny because you see these little heads just bopping by, and so that's how a lot of the guys remembered them. And so
this is another interesting thing. Not only were you a wrestler, but you also worked at a prison, and that was the Mansfield Corrections Facility, correct? Is that the one?
Yep.
That's the one where the Shawshank Redemption was filmed.
Okay, OSR, which was Ohio State Reformatory, is actually the castle that Shawshank was filmed at, and many others. Actually, we'll come back to it, but I'm in a film that's coming out here real short. But I worked at the old castle for about 3 years. We closed it. I was one of the last 50 officers to leave. Now that was a prison, and that we when it went over to the new facility, and that's where Charlie came to work with me. So he never got to be in the old place, but
okay, yeah, because I remember these stories about there, and you used to tell me, said the whole point is do not get in, period. But if you do, you remember those stories? Like you're like, and then it's like, if you do, keep your mouth shut, be respectful, don't accept anything from anybody. Just be on your own. If anybody offers you anything, they're going to expect something in return. Don't get into debt. Don't do drugs. Don't gamble. I mean, there's all this stuff. And it's just, I'm like, I just kind of looking at you like, well, I don't plan on getting in. So thank you. But it was just because I guess you got stories of stuff that you used to catch people doing.
Oh yeah. It was the Kid Collins Scared Straight program, keep you youngins out of trouble.
Well, just put it to you this way, because this is one thing. One guy made a point. He was a sports guy. I can't remember his name. He was a black dude. And he was talking about, like, you know what? All this Me Too stuff. When will it happen when a man gets raped in prison? It's no longer funny. Because that's a joke. People joke about that. And it's fun. Comedians talk about that all the time. If a man gets raped in prison, that's funny. And you might think you're big, bad, and tough, but this isn't the movies. If there's one of you and 5 of them, what the hell are you going to do? I mean, really, what's going to happen to you? I mean, what are you going to do? And it's just, whoa. So most of the time, from what you told me and what other corrections, because I knew a lot of other wrestlers that were corrections officers, like T. Ranchel was one, Dave, Phil Monahan. You remember? You know Phil Monahan? He's up in Michigan.
I met him a couple times. Is all.
Yeah, he was a corrections officer up in Michigan. They said the worst thing you can do is get into debt when you come in, and you get into debt because then once you owe them, they're gonna manipulate you. And these are street smart.
You gotta pay them somehow. You gotta pay them somehow. You gotta pay them somehow.
Yeah. And they said like guys would come in, and next thing you know, there's stuff on their bunk. So it's like cookies and chips and all this stuff. That means you eat that, you owe them for it. It's the best thing. You leave it outside. I remember those stories, and I'm like, oh, I was like, God. But it's a sad thing, but
Yeah, I was raising 2 daughters by myself because me and their mother got divorced, and I spent thousands on getting custody, And not
Mhm.
that she was a bad mom, just that had concerns, and, of her taking them out of the state or whatever, because she lived in Florida before I met her, and that's where her parents were. But we worked good together. But the girls, I don't even know where I was going with that, Lou. I lost it. But
No, no, no.
anyhow,
So you basically you got custody. You spent thousands of dollars
oh
to
yeah,
get custody of your daughter,
yeah,
and you went ahead and
oh
you
yeah.
were able
But
to do that.
yeah, then there's the prison, so it was hard, kind of. Working that out between being the dad of two little girls. I mean, Erica, my youngest, she was about 8 months when the divorce happened. So
Hmm.
I'm taking care of these precious little kids at home, trying to do everything I can, be nice, sweet, and be daddy. And then I got to
That's
go,
myself. I know. Yeah.
yeah. But then I got to turn around, mentally get ready for work, go in there and deal with idiots all day, and that's not just inmates, a lot of staff. And yeah, it was really hard. I actually started suffering anxiety attacks and
Oh,
some
that's horrible.
depression. And
Wow.
that's I only worked for almost 15 years. I worked, but they always said if you work 15 years, you might as well stay 30 because you're halfway there. So at 14 and some change, I said I'm out. And so yeah, just from there, I've done several different things.
Yeah, I heard you had a pet shop at one time. Is that true?
Oh yeah, I was really into exotics and big birds, uh, and
Alligator. Yeah, we had it. You had like that pet alligator. That was like I'm not taking near that thing. It was like it wasn't that big, but it was just like it was like maybe like 3 feet or that at most. I'm trying to think, not even that, but
all the girl. I made so many people mad because remember when I had him at the gym,
yeah.
I converted the girls' bathroom into a pen for him. So then the girls were all mad because they got to go in the boys' dirty restroom. If they, so we made it a single. The alligator got better than the girls did. So oh well,
I
it was
yeah,
guys' gym. It was guys'
yeah.
gym. So
Well, it was, yeah. I was just trying to remember that. Then okay, cool. Now let's talk about because we both did WWF TV. So
mhm.
tell me about your first one. Who was your first WWF match?
The Undertaker.
Oh, you okay? So you got to work with Mark. Okay.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, here's a funny story. When I worked him, of course, I get to the ring first, and then they announce him, and all these guys are walking out with him, and I'm like, why are they carrying him on their shoulders? Here he was just walking. He was just that much taller than everybody else. So, but got through my first match, really good, really great, and that was when he was still using the body bag and zip his opponents up. So I got to experience all that too. Tombstone, body bag. Then he would carry the opponent back to the back and in the body bag. So when he set me down, he says, "Brother, stand still." He says, "While I get the zipper." He's tugging on the. He goes, "Hold on." He goes, "This damn zipper stuck again." All of a sudden, I felt, and he said, "No matter what you do, don't lift your feet. Stand there, and no matter what happens, stay on your feet." I'm like, "What the hell?" All of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. I'm like a weeble wobble. And some of the boys in the back surrounded us and was having fun because they were pushing me around a circle. And I'm standing there with my feet planted, and they're all just. And he did that to some of the guys, especially if they gave him a good match, and it got me into trouble sometime later. But he was like, because on the choke slam, I got a picture.
You
He's
went up
stretched
for
out
yeah.
on his, and he's on his tippy toes because I went up for the choke slam. He asked me, he says, "Can you get up?" I said, "Oh yeah." And so I did, and he made him look like $1,000,000, and so he brightened
If,
me up. So
if
they had me back.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Now
yep.
another story about WWF TV was the Beverly Brothers. Do you want to tell that one?
Well, yeah, that's where that got me in trouble. See, uh,
Okay, because I remember they did the Beverly Spike on you and it messed you up.
yeah. So basically, here I am, this young kid. I got up for Taker, did everything and worked. It was a good match. I mean, it was what it was. But, I sold everything great and it was all great. But, so him bragging in the back, man, dude got up. I almost lost him. He said, I had fingertips holding him. And so that was set around. Well, when the Beverly Brothers were doing the whole the drop, well, they were beefing with the Road Warriors. So this was right before one of the big events or whatever, and so they get with me and my tag team partner, which was you would never think he was a wrestler, maybe a referee, but anyhow, they looked and said, who can jump the highest? He looked at me and looked at him. He was kind of a little dumpy guy and stuff. I said, well, Undertaker said I got up good for him. And like, oh, yeah, they were talking about, because we want somebody to do the death drop or whatever. I can't remember, Beverly Brothers, whatever.
I think it was, or something like that, yeah.
They should have called it a piece of shit move because, and there's guys that would take liberties with the jobbers, get that extra drive in to make them look good. But they shoot me up, or shoot me off, and I come out, and one pushes me up, and he barely moved, and the other one, brings me down, and I'm almost like on the one, and he spiked my head, and I mean, he spiked me. Broke 2 molars in 2. Yeah, and concussion definitely. The doctor there saw me. As a matter of fact, it was funny because on the way back to the locker room, I was groggy. I mean, they did a whole series after they painted my face and Road Warriors. Well, this is blah blah blah. And so I walked into the locker room. Well, there stands Sherry Martel, Scary Sherry, in like bra and panties. And I just froze. She goes, oh, hey. She goes, how can I help you? And I'm like, oh, I got the wrong door. I said, I'm so sorry, and I went out. I was young too, I'm like, oh God, somebody's going to piss and moan that I saw her in her bra and panties, which, really wasn't that big of a deal. But, when you first start off, then we're in my first few matches with them, and we had a good little run for a couple years doing TV and stuff. But it was always a lot of fun because not only did we get to work with them guys, but we got to travel together, stay at the same hotels a lot of time, us guys, and we got to know each other better than just being Charlie students or kids students, So that was good.
We worked together. We became more of a family, I think. I think the schools came together in like 95, 96 or something like that. And then we became more of a family. Charlie started like veering away from training. I was one of his last guys, but not the last guy. So I think Charlie's heart was bothering him. He was just kind of getting tired. He was getting old and getting tired about it. But he missed it. I know he did. He just didn't want to be around it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
You got to tell the Bam Bam Bigelow story when you worked Bam Bam Bigelow. We got to get that in. You want to tell it?
Bam Bam was a hell of a. Oh my God, he was just the nicest guy.
He was my first ECW match, and his manager was Rick Rude. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
and he was wonderful, wasn't he? For that big guy being so damn big, he worked so smoothly. I mean, at least for me, he did. Maybe he was scared of me or something. I don't know. But so we're TV taping, and see, back in, let me explain, because it's just a cool note. Back then they would tape several weeks of shows, and so one night we could be in a town and I could work for, what was it, Saturday night main event. What were all the shows?
Superstars and Challenge. They would do like 2 or 3 hours worth of shows easily.
Yeah, and up above the ring, all they would do was they had a curtain, or flags. That one said superstars. They'd pull that one up, and the next one would come down with another, so it would be seen. But anyhow, Bam Bam, I get Bam Bam, and I'm like, cool. So we go out there, and during the match, Bam Bam picks me up into a suplex. Well, when he pulled me up, I started going to the one side outside. Well, he pulls me back over. Well, just as he does that, my singlet gets pulled to the side, and my junk falls out.
So he basically showed your wiener to about 10,000 people.
Well, yeah, but only the first row saw it, But so, but even better yet. So when I'm upside down, and he's doing the whole round the world, showing everybody. So he's showing my wee wee to everybody, not just camera, but everybody. Like I said, first row was the only one that might have seen it. But so he keeps tugging back, and I'm tugging back, and finally he goes 360, and then gives a little nod, and finishes the suplex. Well, I'm on the way down trying to fix my shit, So, but we got back, and the boys were lined up. I mean, everybody from top to bottom, all the suits, all these guys, coming back, and they are cheering me. And Bam Bam didn't, he comes back later because he had a little thing to do in the ring, and celebratory little thing. So he gets back there, and everybody's still standing there. They're just clapping for him. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, that was an asshole move." And they're like, "What?" And I'm still sitting over there like, "Oh my God, my mom was watching." And I never seen so many camera views, because every time he would move, camera angles, they didn't show my shit, but
yeah,
it was. I mean, it's funny now, but back then I was like, "Oh my God," and especially with everybody in the back, I'm like, I'm never going to live this one down. This is my defining moment.
Yeah, how notorious can you get with that, right?
Right. I'm like, can we just go back and talk to Taker? He said I got up good for him and took everything well, So, I got to work Razor Ramon. That was great.
I remember that.
Then I got to do a dark match. I tell you, one of my best matches in my life was Paul Diamond. Yeah.
Was he Kato at the time, or was he? What was he?
We did a dark match, so he just did under Paul Diamond, because it was just, they were switching over from one. You do so many matches for one show, and then they'd take an intermission, but to keep the people going, they'd have a couple dark matches. And then they would, you might have a dark match, go 15 minutes so we get all of our shit done or whatever. So I actually got to work Paul Diamond, and it was the best ever. And I got a lot of stuff in, and he just let me go hog wild, and that usually don't happen. And we had a real good, fun match. And in the end, I got pinned, but I really got to work, and that was fun, to really actually go back and forth. And he said, so it was just good. It was good, and I thanked him, and he thanked me, and cause I think they had made us go like 12 minutes, something like that, just, so they have time to switch the banners, and I think they were doing the ring skirt then too while we were working, but the fans still saw it, and it was fun,
Yeah, I was fortunate to get two dark matches in my career. One of them was Frank, and this is a quick story, and I always remind guys this too, because Frank worked a dark match, I think I can't remember the dude's name, but he was the fake Razor Ramon in '96. Can't remember. Okay. Frank worked with him, and Garea said something to him, saying, "Hey, you got another match, pick who you want to work." And he immediately, because Frank and I were close, we were good friends, we traveled together, we worked each other a million times. He pointed to me and he said, "I want Liberty." Maria points to me, says, "You got 5 minutes. Get your stuff on. Give us a 5 minute match." What was I gonna say? Oh, I'm not ready. Yes, sir. Jumped right out of my chair. I got ready. I mean, I said we went over the match while I was getting dressed, and that's what we did. So I always tell that, like, if they point to you, because if I would have showed any reluctance, they would have went to somebody else right
Oh
away.
yeah.
So yeah, I got to, and then the other one I got to go over once, and that was with Sean Casey in Cleveland. Sean Casey put me over. Live wire Sean Casey put me over. It was a dark match in Cleveland, and they took care of me. And that made me feel good. That was in March of '99. That was one time I got to go over to WWF ring, and Faria gave me the finish. I said, "What the?" Because I didn't want to do something that was too much. Because if you do too much in a dark match, then you're going to catch heat. So
Right.
I said, like, "Hey, have him give you a crossbody. You roll with it and roll him up and down." I was like, "Is that cool?" He said, "Yes." I said, "John." Then I put Sean over in a dark match. No, I put Sean. Yeah, I did. I put Sean over in Columbus, or was it Columbus? No, Cincinnati, because it was closer to his hometown. I put him over, so it was like he returned the favor to me. So I was happy. I was happy to do it. So
Because
yeah,
the beef stews from Cleveland, Ohio.
well, I remember when I didn't know how I got that. That was a high school nickname that followed me to wrestling. That's where that came from. And I stuck with it for a while until when I started, like, later on, I dropped it. I let it go, but people still called me, and it didn't bother me. But yeah, that's where that came from. So people are like, "Why do they say that?" And I'm like, "You can eat me with a fork." That's what I usually tell them. So
Hey, but well, and I got used to that name well because every time we do shows, I had to call in the posters, and the gal, when I'd put Beef Stew Lou on there, she would get a kick out of it. She would laugh, giggle at some of the names because they were just the poster maker.
yeah. I don't understand it, but yeah, I think I got one of your posters back here in a frame in my office, because if you look at my office here, there's some that I have here, and I think one of them's back there. Do you see that one in yellow? Can you see it?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, yeah. You're on there too. You're on there. It was you and Thunder Morgan against me and Frank.
Okay,
Yeah,
good time.
yeah. That was the show. If I'm not mistaken, you did the Japanese power bomb to me. Do you remember that? When you guys grabbed my leg on each side? Okay, never mind.
Hey, tell me about it. I want to hear it.
You and
I
Dave,
forget a lot of this.
you and Dave each grabbed my leg, and you went inside my, and you grabbed my hands, and basically you up, and I was sitting on your shoulders, and all of us went back to the ball.
Yeah. Him and I came up with that, and we call it the hang and bang. And then of course, we weren't wrestling anywhere real big, but all of a sudden they're using, somebody else was using. I can't even remember who, because I don't even watch wrestling anymore, really. But back then, but yeah, it was a good move. It was nice. I do remember that now.
Yeah,
The hanging back.
That was '95. One thing I did want to tell you. The other thing, do you have any regrets? I want to ask you. Do you have any regrets?
Well, I regret that I didn't make it further than I did. Just in the sense of, what's that?
Well, the thing is that you had your daughter, so I don't think you could have done more than what you did.
Right.
Because I hung up mine boots 5 years ago when my wife was pregnant, and I said, "I'm not going to travel and leave you alone with the baby. I want to be here. I want to see her walk. I want to see her first words. I want to see all this stuff. I want to be your dad." So that's why I made that decision. I could still, if I wanted to. So I figured you would be more of a father than that. So there's it's a regret, but I'll tell you what my regret is, and I owe you an apology for it, because when I was younger, I had maturity issues, and I was partying too much, and I had an attitude problem at one point in time. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I owe you that apology. I want to make sure before we finish up, that's one thing I wanted to say to you. I want to say to everybody else, if I did anything, that was me. Well, I was in my 20s. I was an idiot. So I was young and stupid. And that's my biggest regret. Even though I didn't really lose friends or alienate people too much, but it was kind of like, stop it, because I was partying a lot. I was partying, and I was. But for some reason, I think I could have done a lot more if I didn't party so much and really focused more on the wrestling aspect of it.
Right.
Because I got good, but I stopped really working as hard as when I first started. So that's my regret. So I apologize to you for that personally.
Hey, it's a hard thing. We're diverse. I mean, everything and all this stuff going on in the world sucks because, it's just noise and love each other. I mean, what do you what do you get out of arguing on Facebook and stuff? And I get sucked in too sometimes. But I, again, I don't even know where I was going with that, Lou. But
don't worry about it. No, the thing is, it was so long ago, and you and I are still friends to this day, despite that.
And I don't know, was it one thing you did, or just when you were being a shithead? Because you there for a while, you was just there for a while. You were beef shit Lou, and beef shit Lou instead of beef stew Lou. But no.
That was a nickname you guys had for me? I didn't know.
No. Well, I worked at the prison, so I knew how to manage a lot of different personalities. We probably never made it real close because of the maturity level that, I wasn't much. I'm 53, so I'm not much older. I was young then, but I had to be up here because, man, I was putting my life savings every show on the line. So all that other bullshit. And that was another thing I regret was I used so many of my guys. I mean, I don't regret doing that because that's what I owed them. When they come to wrestling school, I said, hey, the only thing I'll guarantee was I'll give you your first match. If you even semi-competent, you'll get one match. And but it's just I would see guys just try too hard and this, that, and the other, and then and their first match wouldn't be good. But without getting experience, you can't get experience without work. And you can't get work without experience. I was ticking people off left and right because they say, well, I would use you on my wrestling shows. I'd book you if you'll book me. Well, that ain't the way it worked. You should book somebody because they're good or whatever. So right off the bat, a lot of the local guys, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, a lot of you guys would go work for. They wouldn't call me, even though I had more experience, this, that, and the other. It was a matter of people being pissed off. And if I would have used every guy that promoted a show, by this time it got crazy. If I would have done that with every guy, none of you guys would have had a chance. Because if you remember right, I would run just 5 matches. One was a tag team, so you had, your 12 guys.
A battle royale.
Maybe a battle royale. Yeah, and we would get in, get out, hold them, not try to do everything in one night.
Yeah.
So there wasn't that many guys on the show. We have 2 refs and maybe a manager.
Yeah. Ed Dudley would be the manager, and then he would be Isha Ikamatsu. He worked that Japanese hood gimmick. He was easy to work with. My God, he was easy.
Yeah. He's one of my favorites ever. It was one of my favorites ever. But so people weren't using me. So I kind of regret that happened. But I was loyal to the guys, my guys and Charlie's guys. Mm-hmm. And then it became us. Once Charlie kind of got out, Billy had his ring, and they brought it over to my school, and so then we had 2 rings. It was a 2-ring circus.
Well, so that ring that Charlie had was the stiffest damn ring ever. Like, you can see the look on his face. It was. I tell people stories about that ring, and it was like concrete. It was hard, and that was his philosophy. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You should have came to my school. Mine was great. Well, actually, here's a funny story too. I bought my ring. It was a big gym ring. It was too heavy really for shows, but we'd use it once in a while in a pinch. But I sold it. Oh, I don't even know when. Probably late '90s. Yeah,
I remember. I kind of remember that. Yeah.
mid '90s. But anyhow, I just, I didn't. I shut down the school and everything. But then Jimmy Lee, he was one of my first students. Nightmare Jimmy Lee. He he asked me. He says, "Hey, would you care if I would start running wrestling shows? And I mean, are you going to do any more?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Well, can I use the name?" Sure, as long as you don't disrespect it or, you know, do bad business, I don't care.
And Jimmy's
So
not
that
like that. Yeah.
well, and that was just it goes without saying, but I'm like, look, here's the only rules, only guidelines I have. You want to run under ASWA and have my blessing, don't make us look bad. That's it. And he had never has. And I was never worried about it, but he knew that that meant more to me than anything. And so he started running shows, and it was great because I got to get to know people. Because when you're running the show, you're running around putting out fires everywhere. Hot dogs are out in the concession stand. Well, that's money. The females one of the two midgets got drunk. I had to deal with that one time. And I was I
Do you
was
remember
I was a new
Frank find me? Do you remember that one time when Frank couldn't find me and you didn't know if I was coming to the show or not? Do you remember that?
yeah.
And I was passed out. I was passed out, but I got up, took a shower, brushed my teeth, grabbed my gear, stopped at a drive-through. I made it to the show like a half hour before bell time, and you came up to me and hugged me. Said I had no backup plan. I had no backup plan. This was like '95, and there was no cell phones. There's no text messaging.
Yeah.
You,
If you
it,
want
it,
home,
yeah, and I had about 5 messages from Frank on my machine, and the girl I was with the night before was already out of the house at that point or whatever. I forgot what it was.
right.
And and it was like, Lucy, all right. I was so sorry for putting it, but you had to deal with that too. And God knows what else is going on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it I kind of compare it to I managed a strip club for a while, and people used to say, "Man, that must be the coolest job in the world." Boobies, and it's like, no, they all have mouths, and it's like dating 20 women. They all have a shitty car that needs work. They need gas money. I can't make it for this reason. My vajayjay hurts today, and it is. It's the biggest. Yeah, it's no fun managing a strip club. Same way with not doing shows because it all falls on you. You got people coming, bought tickets. And if somebody don't show up that they paid to come see, they're going to be mad. I mean, it always says card subject to change to cover you legally. But my very first show that I ran was down in the Belleville Butler area outside Mansfield. Here it's Clear Fork at the Clear Fork High School. We used to do raise a lot of money for different organizations. And I finally had talked the wife into letting me promote a show. She didn't know how much money it cost me, but I did, and I knew, oh shit, I'm in trouble. When a couple days before the show, we'd only sold like 40 tickets. And I had Shane Douglas on there, half the dynamic dudes at the time, so he cost me a lot. Ivan Koloff. I had Charlie on the show. Was you on that one? I don't know. Okay.
But I remember I saw the tape. I remember the tapes of the stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Ron and Scott were there, and Chris Hahn. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky because one of the guys comes in and goes, "Oh my God, you should see the line." I said, "Shut up, man. It ain't funny." I mean, I was pissed because I'm thinking, man, I just lost thousands of dollars, and the school ain't going to make no money. They'll never want to have another one again. My name's Bud, and I invited people from other organizations, gave them tickets to come see the show so that maybe they would hold shows. And but yeah, it was like 40 tickets the day of the show or the day before, and so we pulled all pre-sale because back then, it wasn't easy on the phone to go, hey, you got this and whatever. So we went and picked up all the pre-sale tickets. I'm like, oh shit, I couldn't sleep for the whole day or the whole night before. And the wife kept saying, what's wrong? What's wrong? I said, oh, I'm just nervous about the show. You know, I'm hiding it because I'm thinking, God, here goes our life savings. You know, we were young. And, but yeah, we ended up having 1,000 people at that show. Maybe even 1,200, but it was it went crazy.
960 count walk up, 960 people walked up and bought tickets.
Wow. Yes. Charlie, because Charlie knew, you know, Charlie, I don't know if this was the right thing. And he was kind of my rock. And he helped me out a lot because he knew how to do shows. And he just, Mike, calm down. He said, sometimes just, you got to have faith. And he says, you can't do nothing about it now, brother. So he kind of kept me. And one of the guys come in and goes, you ought to see the line out there. And I thought he was being facetious. And I was like, shut the fuck up. You know, I was pissed and scared to death because I'm going to get a divorce and everything now, you know. But it all worked out, and everybody made money, and everybody envelope was nice and full, and you know we put on a good show. They were happy, and we probably done over the years probably another 15 shows with Clearport. Well, not with them, but we went over to Lexington, another school, and they used us all the time.
Yeah, because I remember one of the first Lexington shows, Derek and I were the main event against Chris Hahn and Thunder Morgan. And that was a huge house because I remember what you were saying too, because that was a bad winter, but that was a good day. Weather was good that day. And you were just so grateful that, God, thank God for a nice day. And we had a great walk up and the place sold out. And I remember that crowd being hot. Derek and I had to wait because I guess if everybody's listening to remember, Thunder turned on Chris. Mm-hmm. And Derek and I ended up going over. And I remember you guys had to talk Chris into it beforehand. You took him into the shower. You and Charlie talked to Chris, say, hey, you know, this is going to make sense. We're going to set up a return with you and Thunder Morgan. You're going to make more money, do the job. Pretty much you talked him into doing the job and doing the finish. And he did it. He listened to Charlie because Charlie trained Chris. And, you know, I got to go over Chris Hahn in a main event in his hometown high school gym. I pinned him. And it was just like, and I wasn't even a year training at the time. Do you remember that, Mike?
He was, I was thinking, what I was going to say is he probably wasn't too happy, but no, Charlie told him what to do and he just did it. But what was you asking? What was your?
Well, did you know that I was only training for like a year when that happened?
Yeah, because
full year, yeah.
Yeah, because you know you worked that one battle. Man, I tell you what, we had the best bunch of guys because I wouldn't let them work a show if they weren't ready, and Charlie certainly wouldn't either. No. And you know, nobody went out.
Yeah, I was like, wow, you know,
who's that?
To be on top in a main event match. I thought I was nervous because I was like, am I ready for this? You know, I was nervous, but I wasn't even old enough to drink yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and you were still worried more about the girls were sitting in the front row than you were the match.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I was.
Hey, the worst matches on the card was when you and Frank worked each other because you was both trying to get yourself over.
And we worked at it, damn it. We worked at it. Frank was the worst. Frank was worse than me at that. Don't give me this shit. I'll get Frank on this podcast. He'll admit to it. Yeah.
Hey, I don't know how many strip clubs we ended up at after WWF, you know, wrestling with them. Because Frank, he'd be driving sometimes, you know, and, oh, man. And then the one night, everybody's like, we're going on. We're like, we're just going to stay in town. We'll get up and drive in the morning. I don't know if you remember this, West Virginia. They had that one-legged stripper or she had one arm or something, but Frank wanted to go there. Big Bertha's, I think it was called, and he didn't want to leave, and I really wasn't a strip club guy, you know, but you guys talked me into staying with you, and then we all had to bunch up in his truck, and I forget where we was the next day. We was in like freaking Michigan or something like that, but we had a long drive sitting like this and a gear in the back because you guys talked me into staying and going to the strip club, so. There's so many stories, man. It's Man, we've been talking a long time, and we haven't scratched the surface. I want to come back and do another one of these.
That's why we're going to do another one of these, because it's you don't there isn't enough time in the world. I don't want to go too long because I don't think people are going to listen if it's too long. But
Right.
The whole point of the matter was just, I wanted to make sure that, hey, that from the heart, I know I made mistakes, and I think I have regrets too. And I told you what mine was, but I think overall I wouldn't go back and change anything. I mean, I did stupid stuff, but I mean, just so you know, the type of friendships that I built, Frank was the best man at my wedding.
Honestly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that was cool.
What's that?
And that was cool because you were from the different gyms. Because some of the guys didn't want to mix. Oh, I'm a Charlie guy, or I'm a kid guy, and some of them, just didn't,
What I did before I went to your gym, I went to Charlie and made sure it was okay. And he said, "Yeah, go ahead." I said, "I'm going to go to Kid Collins' gym. Is that okay? I want to train with Frank." And because Frank lived in Lakewood and I lived in Brooklyn, which is two suburbs of Cleveland. We were both up in Cleveland. It made sense. We got put together. We traveled together. We split costs. I mean, when you can find somebody to ride with and travel with, and you can split gas money and food and all that stuff, it's a lot cheaper, and you can start making some money. I mean, you can.
Yeah. And
Frank,
he was, and Frank was very, how do I want to say it? He was on time. He didn't, he would show up when he was supposed to be. So yeah, he was one of my favorites too.
Reliable, always. And he's a good hand too. He's really good hand. Oh, yeah. I mean,
him and I had done so many matches down in West Virginia because he had the Billy Ray Cyrus look and came out to it. So I was a face up here and he was a heel, and down there down in West Virginia. They wanted me. Yeah, they wanted me to be the heel, and I'd never really done much healing. And after that, that's all I wanted to do was be a bad guy, because I went out there and the people booing me was just as good as people cheering me. And so.
But I'll tell you the other thing too. Frank had the best ring entrance music at that time. He came out to Romeo with Dolly Parton and Billy Ray Cyrus sang on the song too. And it was that was perfect. He had the handsome gimmick. It was great. Yeah. He was something else. But yeah, before I end this, because we're gonna have to do another part in the sometime in the near future. We're gonna do more. We didn't even scratch the surface on a lot of stuff. We talked an hour and a half. Any parting words of wisdom would you give to anybody at this point in time coming from you? What would you say?
About the wrestling business or just in general?
Anything. Whatever you feel like.
Well, I could talk forever about wrestling, but here's something. See this behind me? Yeah, this is the flag. This is our American flag. This right here is the United States, folks. We're in this shit together. From coronavirus to race relations to everything. Politics is out of hand. We, the people, do not have the voice anymore. We're working against Washington, and they make the rules. So they're in control. They're spreading hate, divide. All I hear anymore now is that's racist or that's bigoted or, you're white, I'm black or whatever. And I'm tired of it. Most people that will see this might not even know me and don't even care. But if I could say one thing to the world or to America, is we're the best country in the world. Now you got your people that'll go, oh, no, we're not. We never was. Not make America great. Yeah, it used to be a great country. My grandfathers, uncles, cousins went off to war. Everybody's falling apart because they're asked to stay at home. People wouldn't have made it back then. And if we were like our forefathers, this is one of my favorite sayings, is our forefathers would be shooting by now over the dumb shit that's going on. Don't let yourself fall into it. Be kind to each other. Hug your brother, hug your neighbor. Well, as long as they're not coronaed up. But, let's stop the shit, And just because somebody votes for somebody doesn't mean that they're everything that person stands for. We have a two-party system. So you have to pick one or the other. That's basically it. And if even if you want to stay in between, somebody pushes you one way or the other. So there's more people in the middle. Know that. And we got to, we should have a third party. Then both of these outside have to come together to get the vote of the middle. It's the only way it's going to work. But they make the rules. I got a little long-winded, but that's a lot of stuff. I think a lot. And you can see I'm very patriotic. So, but yeah, that's just it. I mean, big deal.
I got to tell you, I greatly appreciate you doing this. You're not long-winded, dude. You're fine. You're just talking. You're speaking from the heart. That's all you can ask for. And I always tell people that too. I said, look, we're all in this together. And that's the thing too, is no matter one thing you learn, whether it's in wrestling or it's in the workplace, you got all these people from all these different backgrounds, all these different beliefs, all different religions, all this stuff. You're in there we're all going out in the world. We're trying to make a living. That's our commonality. We're out there trying to make a living. And if you're out there making an honest living and trying to better yourself, I respect you. Just by that, you're out making an honest living and you're doing that. That's all. That's what matters. And when you see somebody else doing the same thing, you feel the same way. So people give me that. Or somebody tried to tell me I had white privilege, and I said, well, where was that when I worked 2 jobs for 10 years of my life? Where was that when I paid for school myself?
But here's the thing: the media, stirs that pot, both sides. Fox, MSNBC, CNN. They want to keep it. Look, they used to every day you got 1 hour of news. Okay, it would come on at noon. They'd have whatever's happened up to that point. Then you had 6. Then you had 11 o'clock news. And a lot of it was the same for the day. Well, now it's 24 hours a day. They have to get something exciting to get people to tune in so they can get paid from the people who pay them for advertising.
Yeah.
It is not our friend.
And to take it a step further, they're trying to get people to click on stuff online, clickbait. They're trying to get the same thing.
It's all money. They don't give a shit about Democrats and Republicans. It's the money. Follow the money. We'll talk politics next time, maybe.
Maybe. Sure. I don't care. Yeah, I'll talk about it. Yeah, we're good at that. But Mike, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Real quick, and to do that, both sides has to start listening to each other and quit being so quick to judge. But anyhow, Lou, I had a great time. I'm honored that you asked me. I was taken aback. Nobody wants to talk to the old guy anymore.
Awesome. No, and I'm glad I got something off my chest with you that I've been meaning to do for a long time.
Listen, so I loved you guys. You were Charlie's boys, but you were like my own. You guys worked hard for me. We weren't as close as we could have been or are now, and that's fine. It is who we are. I wouldn't change anything.
No, I wouldn't. But I think anybody listening or anybody that was young at one time looks back and they regret it too. And I was young, I was stupid, and that was on me. That's on me, and I take full responsibility for it. But the thing is,
and it was. I don't think it was ever really a problem the way you think it was a problem with me. So you were fine, dude. Fine.
That's absolutely.
All right, folks, you got to tune in and watch Beef Stew Lou, the stew pot, and you can see old masters like me talk about old times and get hoarse.
I'll tell you what, it was a pleasure. It was great. I'm glad because you're one of the guys that mentored me along with Charlie, Billy, all those guys, and I owe everything to you and to Charlie, and even to Irene. Irene helped me out a lot too. So it was fun.
Real quick. Can they like this video or whatever? Subscribe or
yeah. You can subscribe to my podcast, follow it. And if you like the video, please do so. And keep an eye out, Mike. It's Mike Moffett on Twitter. Keep an eye out for any shows because right now we're sitting in the Corona quarantine, so there's really nothing to plug right now. But definitely do that. And thanks for helping me out, and thanks for coming on here. All right,
brother.
I'm stopping the recording. Here we go.